Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mangoes Not Lemons. We are back again talking about some pretty important topics in the workplace. And I have with me today my business partner, Clint Cowley.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You're very welcome. Thanks for taking some time to visit with us today. And we're going to address a couple of issues today that are being thrown around to a lot of our clients. It really affects solutions in the workplace that involve recruiting and human resources. So today we're going to talk a little bit about software making life easier for recruiters and human resource teams. So we're specifically applicant tracking software and HRIS systems. And then we're going to talk about a new way to think about recruiting and HR teams. So we want to challenge the norm with this video. So Clint, tell us a little bit about, where should we start?
So the software, that's a fun space. Like technology can do so much for us these days, right?
Yes.
How does technology and software apply in HR? As we think about it in our business, the HRIS and the applicant tracking system, maybe we should talk a little bit about, maybe not specifically about Gatekeeper, what we're building, but just
Gatekeeper's our applicant tracking system.
But maybe in general, why are applicant tracking systems even important?
All right, so I really like where you're going, and there's a lot of meat to that bone as far as an applicant tracking system. Ultimately, the primary goal of an applicant tracking system is an easy way for a recruiter to get a job to the public, to get it noticed by the public, to get people back into a central repository of data and be able to not lose them in the process.
Lose the candidate.
The candidate.
Okay.
So a common thing in a recruiting process is candidates get lost in the process. They don't get
How do they
noticed.
get lost?
So they get lost, meaning their resume, maybe they weren't a perfect match.
Okay.
And so their resume gets overlooked in the first swipe or the second swipe, but then the candidate never gets noticed that the job got filled or that they weren't selected. And the candidate's in limbo forever.
So the applicant tracking software helps manage that for these HR teams?
Yes, so it helps keep track of all your applicants by job and where they're at in the process of the job. So a good applicant tracking system has what's called a good job flow, a customizable job flow. Job flow meaning when all the applicants come in, they initially come in as an applicant, then they might be moved to the pre-screen, then they might be moved to an interview, then from there they might be moved to an offer, and then from an offer moved into an onboarding stage with electronic paperwork processes.
And that's the HRIS side.
Well, no, that's still all the applicant tracking system. It doesn't roll to the HRIS until the onboarding is complete and the paperwork packets roll into a human resource information system, which manages your active employees, active contractors, payroll, invoices, benefits. All of that is an HRIS system. Where the applicant tracking system, an ATI, an ATS, is all about handling all of the people that don't work for you and keeping track of them so their experience is positive.
And that helps engage with the applicant so that they have a good experience with you as a hiring team, as a business. So that if they're a great fit now, awesome, you get them faster.
Yep.
If not, then they stay in your database and hopefully you can catch them on the next one.
Yeah, if not, a good applicant tracking system, a good process means they had a good experience applying for your company, they were told nicely no, and that down the road when there's another opportunity, they'll apply again. Or you'll be able to search their information up again. So if you have a good applicant tracking system, a good process, that you can tell someone no and they still want to work for you.
And so should these applicant tracking systems tie into obviously their career page, but how else should it tie, and kind of what other reporting or features should a good applicant tracking system have?
So a good rule of thumb with an applicant tracking system or with any company, if you go to a company's webpage and you have a hard time finding their careers link or their hiring link, that company does not have a good focus on attracting new talent. So if you go to our HR Mango page, feel free, go check it out, everybody, it's great. If you go to our HR Mango page, top right, big old careers button. It's orange, it's a top priority, it's on the top of our page. We have our careers in the main menu section. We have our careers again in the bottom section. We want people to know new applicants are important to us, and that's how you demonstrate
And
it.
so businesses should put that link or the career page, exactly what you said, make it visible where people can find jobs. But what if they're not hiring right now?
So that's a little bit different. So when companies are generating, so we have a weird thing in the market right now that there's a lot of companies, they want the perception that they're hiring. So they have jobs out there that are, I call them maybe jobs. They have maybe jobs out there. They have their jobs
The
are
unicorn
live.
candidate that they're looking for?
Yes, that they're looking for this magical one-time perfect fit candidate that fits in that low price budget that they all have, but they're not really hiring for the job. But they need the perception in this market with inflation high, with the Fed rates high, with consumer buying low. A lot of companies are stalemated. They're just kind of stuck. They're holding their own. They're not going down, but they're definitely not going up. So they need to put in the market a perception of they're still doing well. They still have opportunity, they still have growth, and they'll put those unicorn jobs out there that really nobody's hiring for.
And so maybe that link can help at least try to collect applicants that maybe that unicorn can come along. So you'd mentioned
But
maybe...
you have to have a good applicant tracking system to make sure they're not burned in that slow process.
And maybe that can even shift the topic into our vision or our thoughts on kind of where it's going on what the new team is looking like.
So yes. So ultimately, if you have good software in place, and another thing I wanted to bring up with applicant tracking systems and human resource information systems, there are so many good technology platforms coming out in the world today. If you have not evaluated new vendors for an ATS, this is to all you companies out there, all you human resource people out there, if it's been over, let's say 5 years, if you've had the same software system for 5 years, you should absolutely do a new request for proposal to compare software systems. There are good systems out there
Both
for better
cost
prices.
and functionality
Yes.
and reporting.
With all the new software, with all the new automation, with the new AI features, all of that, there are good things out there.
But again, that goes into the HR team, and
That
kind
goes
of
now to your team.
into the what is a team? Why is the complexities of HR and recruiting and the team look? Why is it different? What's
So let me tell you, with software, that's a great question. With software comes the opportunity to reevaluate the need of how big your team needs to be. Nowadays, with how good the software is, for instance, and we'll talk Gatekeeper, Gatekeeper is built in to what's called an on-demand recruiter. So what that means is the days of having a huge recruiting
that's
team
sitting
just
at a
sitting
desk,
in your
waiting
desk,
for someone to have an
waiting
open
for
job?
a job to do, those are gone. Those days are totally gone.
It feels
you
like
don't
those
need
are the
to do that.
It feels like those are the first people to be lost in a downsizing event as well. I remember in my previous company when we had some need for some change or pinching pennies.
Yeah.
The first people that we had to look at were the people on our HR team, because if we're not recruiting,
Then they have less to do.
yeah, they didn't have anything to do.
So one of the good case study that we did recently, we had a long-running client, 9+ years with this client. We managed their entire recruiting force. They didn't have one in-house recruiter. We had a full on-demand recruiting model. So it wasn't even a full, what's common in our industry is an RPO, recruitment process outsourcing. It was a version of that, but a creative version. It was all on demand. We didn't have a fixed team. They didn't have a fixed fee. It was all a fee structure based on the jobs they had open. In 1 year, we did all the numbers for them. We filled about 680 people for them in that year, in all the positions. They had this is a lot of industrial positions, so a lot of high volume, a lot of turnover in that position. Our total bill to them was about $330,000 for that year's worth of on-demand recruiting.
For hiring those 680 people.
For hiring those 600 plus people, and it turned out to be about $500 per hire, roughly, when we did the math. And funny enough, they got a new executive team. The new executive team said, oh, I don't love that on-demand. I want people sitting in their desk. I want them available when I need them. Very old-fashioned way of thinking. they went ahead and hired a 4-person in-house team. A manager, which I was managing at the time, a manager and 3 full-time recruiters. That team, without one hire, cost over $400,000 just to have them sitting in their desk. They've delivered nothing. They have no results. They've paid not one penny into advertising or recruiting expense. Just comparing apples to apples, they significantly increased their budget for no results.
And that was the 4 people with very little kind of volume in hiring.
Correct.
How many people would they have needed to hire 680 people?
Well, they could have done that with that team,
Okay.
but ultimately, funny enough, with that specific client, after they hired their internal team, they put on a hiring freeze for 3 months. And where they would have paid us nothing in those 3 months, because it's on-demand recruiting, you would have frozen our recruiters, 0 expense. Now they're paying a full 4-person salary plus benefits with typically a 30 to 35% soft cost on top of their salaries for nothing.
So the on-demand model is the new way, because it can save. Didn't you do an RFP with several companies too to try to compare apples and apples on costs to recruit, and it was saving them millions of dollars on their hiring?
Yes, it depends on the size of the organization, but on average, our specialty, we range anywhere from 300 employees upwards of 6,000 employees for some global companies that we've worked with. And so the savings is pretty different depending on the size of organization but ultimately almost everyone we've run the numbers on, our model will save them money.
You said 300, but I'm sure there's companies that have like 20 people that need to hire a person.
You're correct.
Even more in the temporary or the on-demand services in that scenario, because you can't afford to go bring on an HR manager or recruiter.
No, if your company is under 300 people, you should never, I'll go on the record, never hire a full-time recruiter if your company is under 300 people. You should have an HR person to help you manage the human capital and the payroll and the benefits, but you should never hire an in-house full-time recruiter for a company of that size. You're wasting money.
You know your stuff, Damon.
So, well, Clint, this has been super fun. I have a lot of passion around recruiting, a lot of passion around human resources.
I can tell.
So when we talk about these topics, I challenge the norm. There's a reason I put disruptor on my LinkedIn profile. Rethink your process, rethink your model. Look at what your organization is doing. Look at the software expense that you're spending and take a few minutes. Give me a call. Happy to be a resource. Even if you don't use this as a client, happy to brainstorm some solutions to where your model might get a little bit better for your organization. So thanks, Clint, for being here today.
Glad to be
Thanks,
here.
everybody, for tuning in. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something, and challenge your team, challenge your software. Take away today. Thanks. Have a great day.